text is a purpose or a motive alleged, or an appearance assumed, in order to cloak the real intention or state of affairs.
Initial access. OMI is trying to get into your network.
Listen, this is your manager, and I'm trying to send off an email. I got this document. Need you to confirm a few details. So go ahead and log in and tell me what you think. I need this now, so to make this convenient, here is the link. I'm a threat actor, phishing mark for email is urgent to distract you with it. So how fast do you click it when you submitted the form with your password in it? You probably couldn't tell there was an actual difference in the URL. The domains look alike though, and to you will look fine though, but mine had typos and make it look like yours. See, I was in the mood today to make your account a communal space, but then you activated your trap card, and I saw you had 2FA. But I just shrugged, I'ma shake it off. Got on kid gloves, I'ma take them off. Got your phone number, I'ma make a call. I'ma break this wall, it just makes me lol. I'm moving quick, I'm on a mission. Yeah, I heard your network is lit. I'm trying to get in. Yeah, I'm trying to get me a hit. When I go fishing. Yeah, you probably think it's legit. I got you clicking. Yeah. Hello. Hi. I'm calling you from the IT department. We have been under attack by some hackers, and we think that your account might be a target.
Oh no! How do I fix this?
No need to worry, I wrote up a ticket. You'll get a notification from your authenticator app, so please pass me them digits.
1 sec.
Okay.
Yeah. The code is 112345.
Thank you. You fell for the lie, so I hung up the phone without saying goodbye. Cutting it short like a crew cut. Probably think it won't happen to you, but it happened to Uber. They say you win some, you lose some. Boys got a smooth touch hacking you too, bruh. You know how I be creeping and I'm logging in your VPN. It probably looks anomalous. Some logs if you be keeping them. And probably unaware about the shares that have been peeping. And the reason I'll be seeking them, I'm looking for an easy win. You probably thought it was a magic trick, and you're mad you clicked. I'ma stack my chips and bet that a DA password is sitting in an admin script. I'm moving quick, I'm on a mission. Yeah, I heard your network is lit. I'm trying to get in. Yeah, I'm trying to get me a hit. When I go fishing. Yeah, you probably think it's legit. I got you clicking. I'm moving quick, I'm on a mission. Yeah, I heard your network is lit. I'm trying to get in. Yeah, I'm trying to get me a hit. When I go fishing. Yeah, you probably think it's legit. I got you clicking.
Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to this edition of Hands-on Generative AI in Azure. So before we get further into the introductions, a quick one, the music that was playing earlier, so that is Clicking by OMI. So I'll put the link in the chat window. So please do check out like his music. It's got some other amazing stuff that he does. And yeah, so I have with me today Kenny again. Hello, Kenny. How you doing? Oh, let's try that again. Hello, Kenny. How you doing? Oh, hello. Hello. Can you hear me, Kenny?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, how's everything
Okay.
been? Everything been good?
Yes.
Nice.
How has things been on your end too?
Busy, right? So it's both on the personal front and on the professional front. Everything is all busy. But you know that's how it is, like in sort of like our industry. So so apologies to everyone. So we're not able to share a video today. So part of that is due to like network connectivity issues that we're trying to avoid. But we're working on fixing that. So hopefully in upcoming sessions we'll be able to pick up sharing our video. But also we had like a mini emergency, right, Kenny, before we joined. So where I'm currently holding a baby who needs to be fed. So, and is currently looking at me and thinking, what am I doing? So apologies to everyone. So currently looking after a baby also at the moment. So unfortunately, nobody shared for that. So also, I know we said we're going to discuss and cover MCP today. So, however, due to like all the other stuff, we're going to be shifting focus a little bit to talk about other things. So, if you have any, so what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing question and answers, and we're going to be taking any questions. So, if the audience has any questions, we'll be happy to take any questions that you have with regards to generative AI in Azure and address the questions. But also, we'll just do like a back and forth where Kenny asks me some questions, I ask Kenny some questions, just to get a pure, unfiltered, like transparent thoughts on different things. So it could be from a technical perspective, it could be from like a general social perspective. So, okay, Kenny, like you've got some questions. I also have some questions. So do you want to start out with a few questions first, and then we'll go from there?
Okay, so I think the last time we demo on data analyst agents within Azure AI Foundry.
Yes.
And I think I have one question around that. Like, so how
Okay.
can we manage in cases where we have like multiple agents? How are we able to like manage the interactions or manage context? Remember, like the context I gave to the agent the last time was deploying
Oh,
was deploying RAG. Yes. So
yes.
in the case
Yeah.
where we have like multiple agents, like how are we,
Yeah.
how can we maintain or manage context?
That's a very, very good question. Kenny, really, really good one. And okay, 1 minute here. Let me try to adjust. I'll see if I'm able to share my screen. I'm right with one hand here. So apologies. Let me see. So let me go ahead and share my screen very, very quickly. So let's go share screen and entire screen. And let's go. So okay, let's do this. Apologies. Let me just go put the baby down a bit. 1 minute. 1 minute. So just. Okay. Sorry about that. So okay, so yeah, so if you remember, like when we were talking about agents, like earlier, Kenny, we said an agent as a model, right? It has
Instructions
instructions
and tools.
and tools. So actually, there is another aspect to what a modern agent would have that's not explicitly mentioned here, which is memory. So we saw that a little bit, remember, when we looked at anything. So
Yes.
we can actually give this agent memory, and memory is how an agent remembers past interactions, right? So a memory is what an agent used to remember past interactions. So, when we did N10, and if I remember correctly, let me bring up the blog posts that I did then, based off of like the session that we did on N10, because I remember we added memory to one of the agents. Yeah, so you remember this? You remember we had simple memory, right?
Yes.
And we had like a simple memory to that. So it's possible to give this agent memory. And this memory itself can be a database, right? So typically you may see people using things like, a cache, or something like an Azure cache for Redis. Do you know the reason why people may want to use something like Azure cache for Redis instead of just pure storage? Do you know the reason why?
No.
So I'll help with the reason why. So you see, when we talk about um, things like storage, right? Some storage are faster than other storage, right? So a memory storage is typically faster than a persistent storage, like that we have. You have your hard disk, your SSDs, But then you have the computer memory, which is usually smaller but way much more faster. So when you're talking about something like, cache for Redis, when we're talking about something like Redis is typically using those types of memory. So which means it's extremely fast. But at the same time, it's also more expensive than normal storage. So, but what people can do is that they can use and give memory to their models, and then the model can use a memory, and then it can essentially keep previous interactions in here. So, to your point, let's say you have multiple. So now, one of the questions that you may be thinking is, if you're using if you're doing if you're creating your agent in the Azure AI Foundry portal, there's no place for you to add memory, right?
Yes.
I'm not sure if you've looked at it, but there's no option to add memory. Like, here's an
Yes.
example. I can add actions, I can add knowledge, I can add other agents, right? I can add other agents. If I go to this agent, I can go, I want to add other agents, right? Connected agents. I can add that. I can add actions, and I can add knowledge. But there's no memory here. So that's because the portal experience doesn't give us the full capabilities. There are different approaches to creating agents using Azure AI Foundry, right? You can create agents using the UI, or you can create agents using code. If you're using the UI, like what we've been doing so far, there are limitations in terms of the capabilities that we can access. So if we want to do things like give our agents memory, we'll probably have to use code to do that. Does that make a little bit of sense? Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that you see. So for example, when you're working with like your agent, and if I go to, let's say, on the overview as an example, right, it's going to give us like examples of how to interact with this, right? So, okay, build with agents. Let's go build with agents, or build agents. So if we're creating agents, actually, let's go back to overview. It's going to give us like ways for us to interact with it. So you can see like things like the API documentation. And it's one of these days, I think we'll show an example of creating a similar agent that you created, but creating it using code.
Cool.
So that way, yes. So we can create it using code, and then we'll have more capabilities that we can use. Okay, so let me pause there and let me stop there and see. So, okay, I've got like a question for you, and my question for you is more like from a more social perspective of AI, right? So when you're seeing all of these
Yeah.
things, so for example, like you, Kenny, you do like data, you're a data, you're a data analyst, so in the data world, right? You also have a background in international relations. I mean, I'm curious as to like your generation, like, do you feel, is there like any part that feels a bit afraid of what will be going on in the world in the next 10 years? Would there actually be jobs, or will agents just be doing everything? Well, like what's like your thought? What's going on through your mind? You've been like a graduate, international relations background, and data analyst. What's going through your mind with regards to all of this?
I think my own take on this is that agents, like, it's going to enhance like our work, or like our tasks, basically. Like what agents
Mm,
does, it's an assistant.
mm,
So it's not coming to take over anybody's job. Though some jobs will get outdated, and
mm,
AI agents will fill some of their roles. But even still, like, remember the case of AI agent, I mean, no, models
mm,
hallucinate. So there's always need
mm,
for like human to like go back and cross check and double check to see whether whatever result you were giving is, so there's no how, there will always be that need for an intermediary. So agents or AI is not coming to take jobs, so it's going to take some jobs jobs, but it's going to also create more jobs. So there'll be some
Mm,
roles that we've never heard of that will be coming up due to agents. So some people will lose
mm,
their job, and
mm,
those that will lose their job are those that are not able to embrace AI and AI
mm.
agents.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's really really powerful. There's a term that you used there that actually gave me like an enlightenment. When you use the term, um, some jobs will be outdated. That's a really powerful way to put
Yes.
it because I'm thinking so it's not as if like the job itself goes away, but then the job modernizes. And then if people are not up to date with regards of what this job looks like in this new age, then that's where the challenge comes in. That's very very interesting. That's definitely a very interesting take. Yeah, nice. Okay, so yeah, let's go for like the next question that you have for, for Ben. So I hope that the answer that was given the first time, I hope that that addressed the question that you asked around like using memory to maintain context and using memory to maintain past interactions. Okay, I'll take your next question, Kenny.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Um, so when it comes to deploying AI agents
Mm,
in a large scale, or let me use an enterprise scale, like
mm.
who do you think will take advantage of this? Is it the small business or the big ones in the business?
Hmm. Um, I personally, I think it will be everyone, right? So let me. There's a very interesting thing, Kevin, Kenny, to mention. Like, it's a very interesting one, right? Because my wife and I, we just had a baby, right? To
Yeah.
me, I think like I'm part of like the first generation that will be raising a baby in the AI age. And like maybe for you also, if you decide to have a child and a baby in the future, be raising a baby in the AI age because actually the baby already has his own agent, right? So I have an agent for
Hmm.
him. And it's something I can show you offline because of course it contains private information. But the baby has
That's
an agent.
interesting.
So yeah, he has an agent. So and the way that I've built it is so there is Azure Blob Storage that's used for persistent
Yes.
storage, so for RAG. But so, for example, we go to the hospital, they give us a report. I take a picture of the report, I upload it straight to the agent. Agent stores that report in Azure Blob Storage. Okay, we like I shared with you earlier how my wife and I are we alternating the feeding or looking after the baby so that at least both of us can get some sleep. So, we keep a record of, oh, he had this ML today, he had this ML yesterday, he had this ML stuff. So once we take all of those information, I upload it straight to the agent. And now I have an agent where I can go and I can say, show me a graph of the baby's feeding patterns over the last 7 days. And it will plot the graph for me. Actually, let me see if I can bring up like an example of such graph for it to you from the baby from the baby's agent. So the baby, has his own agent, and I can do like this. So essentially, that's from a personal use, right? So that is just an
Yeah.
individual personal use at home. Now, I'm doing that because I'm in the tech world, but I'm guessing that we are going to have like more of these types of applications. So mobile applications that will just be mobile agents that people can use for like maybe they're looking after their babies. If you're running a business, you have a business mobile agent that you can upload everything relating to your business and then you can ask questions in natural language and then it will respond back to you. So I think that it's going to be everywhere. Um, yeah, let me see if I can show you an example of from the baby's agent very quickly. Let me go to this the baby's agent. Let's go to see if I can show that to you very very quickly. Okay, so I'll just bring up like the graph part that I asked it to generate just recently and show you like an example of what that looks like. So, and this is like view, this is like not made up and stuff. So let me go to, where is this? Okay, yeah. So here is an example. Let me bring it up very quickly. Oh, come on. It is dragging a little bit. I'll just quickly share my screen again and show you like an example of this. So, come on. Sorry, the system is just dragging a little bit. Okay, we've got it. Let me go ahead and bring this up very quickly. So share my screen again and go to share the screen. So can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So here's an example. So this is actual like data. This actual like graph that the agent plotted for me just a few days ago. Right? I'm like, show me like what the baby's feeding is like. So, but what happens is that every time we feed him, we'll upload, we add that information immediately through the mobile phone, right? Anytime we get a doctor's reports or a health check, we take a picture immediately. I even upload videos, right? So, oh, look at the way he's sleeping, he's making certain movements, and I upload that as a video straight into the agent. And then I can go and then I can say, oh, is there anything that's unusual with the way the baby is moving in the sleep? And then the agent uses its training data to analyze all of those information and then comes back to me and says, oh, actually, this is nothing to worry about. But this is an example. I just said, hey, give me a quick a graph of the baby's feeding over the past 7 days. And it just went, let me go plot a graph. And it plotted the graph of the baby's feeding pattern and everything. So this is from an individual use. But I expect that to be like you, for example, like you, Kenny, I expect that in the next like 1 year or so, Kenny will have our own personal agent where like information about your life where you can go, hey, tell me about how I've been doing with regards to productivity in the last 1 month. And they will say, oh, Kenny, yeah, your productivity is amazing, but maybe you're doing too much on IG, you know, because it's your personal agent that has all your data. So it will just give you all this insight about you. And maybe David will say, hey, you know, what about this one? I say, David, you need to, you know, reduce the YouTube watching, you know, and stuff in order for you to be like more productive and stuff. So that's my opinion, is that this is not just going to be like for large enterprises. This is going to be across the board. And the reason why I think that is because of open source, because there's open source. So because like the cost used to be a barrier for the accessing the models, but with a lot of open source models like DeepSeek, even GPT has released an open source model, Llama and all those open source models will get better and better. And what that means is it will become cheaper for people to build consumer type applications. So that's my initial thoughts around that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think
Go ahead, sorry.
concerning that,
Yeah.
since they are open source, are they really concerns for like data security in the long run?
Yeah, there will always be. So there will be like some concerns for open source models that other types of models don't have. So, for example, like
Yeah.
scanning for things like backdoor and the other stuff. So, like those kind of concerns, right? So, but but it's not just like those kind of concerns are usually around even more about like privacy, right? But I'll say those concerns also applies to like enterprise one. If I'm using open AI models, I'm also concerned about privacy and all of those stuff. So like those concerns will definitely like exist. But I think that what open source does is that it makes it more accessible. So, for example, without something like like a DeepSeek model, or without something like a GPT OSS model, I mean, the price to access some of these models is a lot for, let's say, like maybe like majority of people like in Nigeria, right? Or maybe
Yeah.
like majority of people half part of the world in West African countries where
Third world
you have to pay,
countries.
yeah, where you have to pay like about $20 a month, right? And that is only giving you like a limited
Yes.
access to like certain API calls. But if it's open source and you can host it more cheaply on a local server that's running somewhere in Lagos, then it becomes more accessible. So, for example, a secondary school could have like a single server or two servers that maybe has a little bit of GPUs in them that will be less expensive, and they could run their own models and host it there at a lesser cost, right? And then all the teachers are accessing applications. So that's another use case, Kenny. Like from a teaching perspective, people doing like assessment and stuff. I expect that in a lot of schools, like in Lagos and stuff, in the next few years or so, that's how they're going to be doing all the assessments. Is they will have cheap, locally running models that they're using for a lot of this assessment for the children, where they can just take a picture of this children's assessment and it will do the grading immediately. Yeah. But those
Yes.
other challenges are things
So
that
I think
we,
about that, I personally believe that
yeah.
some industries will actually benefit from this than the others. Like
Oh,
the
okay.
benefits will
Like, yeah,
not
go
be
ahead.
it's not be balanced. Yes.
Yeah. So, like,
Because
which
you
ones are you
mentioned
thinking that will
the
be? Which
education
one do you think
system.
will be? Like, which ones do you think will benefit
I think
more
the education
versus
system
the
will be
others?
one of those industries that will actually benefit from this very
Yeah.
much.
And what's the reason why you think that they will benefit more from that versus the
Because
other?
it's going to streamline a lot of repeated processes.
Mm. I see. Yeah. 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 But then if you think but what about like the other industry, like which industry do you think would benefit less, I should say?
Yes. Maybe when it comes to, I don't know, maybe, let's say engineering, like those that have to do
Mhm.
like with deep technical stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about like things that maybe require like a lot of physical interactions to get done.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a very good point that you bring up, Kenny, also in terms of from a physical perspective, because because we are in this world, right? So yourself and myself were in this software world, right? Where we're dealing with software and a lot of stuff. But it's a very interesting thing because the same way that there's been a lot of advancement in AI with regards to the software world, I've also been seeing, even though that's not my world and I don't know a lot about that world, in all honesty, but there's also been like a massive amount of advancement, it seems, in the physical world with regards to robotics, where
Yes.
like some of the robotics and the AI integrations in them, it's getting more and more powerful to where robots are able to like undo like serve coffee, right? And even do cooking. I've seen robots doing cooking, right? And maybe a very good example of that are self-driving cars. I mean, that's like a robot, right? A car that can
Yes, it
drive itself.
is.
Yeah. So it's intelligent enough to understand all this data that it's taking in and to navigate itself in a complex world where there's unpredictability, where a human being could jump in front of it or an animal could jump in front of it, and this machine can navigate itself around this. So that is like one aspect that in our side of the world is not as developed, right? So like we are able to access the software world, but I'm not sure about too many people that's like doing like a lot of robotics, like for example, let's say in Lagos or in like maybe like in Accra or stuff like that.
Yes. I also think that aside from industries, I think that some countries will embrace AI and AI agents faster than us. like
mm,
in our part of the world, like Africa,
yeah.
things like robots are coming to. Their belief is that robots are taking over their jobs, and it's going to a whole lot of jobs and roles, especially in
Mm,
our own part of the world. Their
mm,
them embracing it is going to be, I think it's going to be quite slower than what
mm,
we have in the Western world, I
mm.
believe.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that I think that's very interesting like point in terms of like that adoption. So because like if we look at like what what makes it difficult for people to adopt something like this, right? So maybe like one barrier is lack of knowledge, right? People just don't know.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
so that's one barrier. Another barrier may be like even like some social or some cultural beliefs that people have, right? So people
Cultural
may have
beliefs
like certain,
majorly, I think.
yeah, yeah. So like what do you think like, so do you think like we like there's like, so okay, let me put it this way, because when it comes to like cultural beliefs, there are different aspects that I've read about. I'm not an expert in this, but different aspects that I've read about. So one aspect is the aspect of trust, right? So people are like, if I don't trust the I won't use it a lot, right? Because I don't trust it. So that's why they're trying to solve the issue of like hallucination and the others, because people have to be able to trust these things to be able to use them, right? So but then there's like, so like, do you think that there is more mistrust of technology like this type of like AI technology in our side of the world, or do you think there's more mistrust, or do you think there is more fascination? Because typically when I talk to people, what I see is fascination. When I show people like, so when I visited Lagos recently, I visited different people, and many of them I showed like the stuff to, and I'm like, hey, have a look at this app on my phone. And like the wife speaks Igbo, the husband is Yoruba. And I was like, hey, and the husband is like, oh my God, I can use this to like speak Igbo to my wife. Right. And it's fascination that I see. And then I showed it to like
Mm.
some kids also. I was like, hey, let me show you something. And then take a picture and analyze that. And they were like, oh my God, take a picture of them and change it to something else immediately. And they were like, oh my God, I'm fascinated and stuff. So do you
No.
think that there's more
So I think
fascination on our side? Go ahead, sorry, Kenny.
it's in two parts.
Yeah.
So for the older generation, it's more of
Mm,
mistrust, while for the younger
mm,
generation, more of fascination.
mm, mm, mm,
Because if you
mm,
meet an average elderly person in Africa, for example, they don't even
mm,
trust the phone you are holding in your hands. Even there are some people that have even refused to even embrace mobile phones and stick to
mm,
the old method of writing letter as means of communication. So for the older
mm,
generation, it's more of mistrust of technology.
mm,
Then
mm,
the younger generation, it's more of fascination.
mm, mm. So and means that like maybe like in outside of the world, like the older generation will be way much more reserved, and probably they're not going to be adopting
Yes.
any of the any of this stuff.
Yes.
But especially if you tell them to go into a car that there's no driver.
They
That
won't
is,
even that's like a very good example. Like
yeah,
imagine you asking them to get into a car that there is no driver. And what they are used to
yeah,
is seeing a car with a driver in the front. Like,
yeah.
but if it was for someone my age range, like I'll be so
Yeah,
fascinated and I want to experience. Yeah, let me experience this, a self-driving car, this and that, but not for the older generation, definitely.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that's a very interesting one, because what part of that also means, I'm not sure if you know about this, but like there's certain companies, there's allegations, like there's allegations in the industry that there's certain tech companies that likes to remove. I'm not saying it's a good. It's not, I'm not saying it's a good thing, 'cause I'm not sure I don't think it's a good thing. But when people get to like certain age, they like to replace like middle management essentially for people that are younger. I've heard like some of these allegations for some of against some of like these tech companies, and maybe some of the reasoning is like maybe part of like what you're saying is maybe in their thinking, and like the more people get set in certain ways, the more it's difficult for them to embrace and adopt certain things. So then they are like, man, we'll just pay you off, to just replace and just get like people that maybe in their thinking, which is not right, maybe like more open to like certain things, which is also like, a to an extent, it's a good case for like young leadership. Because like that
Yeah.
embracing something new and all of that stuff. Okay, nice. Okay, so yeah, this has been like a very, very good conversation, Kenny. Really, really, really good conversation on this. So I next time we will be able to get into like the conversation of MCP, from what we originally planned to do. So we'll be able to get into that conversation like next time, and we'll be able to move forward and talk more about like Azure AI Foundry. Yeah, nice. Okay, so any final comments from you? Any final comments? Any final thoughts from you, Kenny, before we round up today's session?
No.
No. Okay. So thanks very much. Again, it's been a very interesting conversation. So and then what we'll do is that we'll pick it up like from there next time. And then so when we'll get into like MCP. So those are some of the things that you see that you may not be able to like do directly from the console, from the UI, because they may only be available like in code. Right. So but the good thing about it is that we don't have to be afraid of code. The reason why we don't have to be afraid of code is because we have AI. so
Yeah.
we can literally use natural language and say, okay, I'm trying to build an agent that integrates with this MCP server, and it's going to do this, and then get it done for me, and then you pick it up and get it done for us and stuff. So yeah, so we'll see like some of those in action. Okay, thanks very much, Kenny. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining us today. So pick it up again in the next 2 weeks. Until then, have a lovely rest of the day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. See you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.